Have you ever just stopped and wondered what makes you, well, you? I mean, from our very first breath to our last, our lives are this incredible journey of constant change. Today, we're going to explore the map of that journey and try to understand the amazing story of how we grow and develop over a lifetime. In a way, our lives are a lot like this little plant. We're constantly pushing through challenges, always reaching for something more. And that's really the heart of human development. It's this persistent, powerful story of growth, of adapting, and of becoming who we're meant to be. So here's the big question. Is this journey just random, or does it follow some kind of predictable path? Are there universal stages we all go through, these common threads that tie all of our experiences together? That is the exact puzzle that developmental psychology tries to solve, and today we're going to piece it together. To really get the story, though, you first have to understand the blueprint. So let's start with the absolute fundamentals that developmental psychologists use to map out our lives. Okay, so what are we even talking about when we say development? Well, psychologists define it as all the systematic changes and things that stay the same that we experience through our entire lives. It is a journey that quite literally takes us from womb to tomb. And these changes, they unfold across three big interconnected areas. There's the physical, like a baby learning to walk. There's the cognitive, like a toddler saying their first words. And then there's the psychosocial, which is all about our emotions and how we learn to get along with other people. And the thing is, they're all influencing each other all the time. But this journey isn't always a simple, straight line. And for decades, psychologists have been debating the very rules of our development, asking some really fundamental questions about how we change. One of the biggest debates is this. Is our development a smooth, continuous ramp where we just gradually get better at things over time? Or is it more like a set of stairs where we go through these distinct, sometimes really sudden stages of change? This is the core of that whole continuous versus discontinuous development debate. And then, of course, there's the classic question, nature versus nurture. Are we who we are because of our genes or because of our experiences? Well, the modern view is that you really can't separate them. It's not one or the other. Our genes kind of provide the potential, and then our environment shapes how, and even if, that potential unfolds. Okay, now let's get to the beginning of the story, the time where the foundation for our entire life gets laid: childhood. Believe it or not, our story starts even before we're born. The prenatal environment, everything from nutrition to the mother's health, plays a huge role, and exposure to harmful things, which are called teratogens, can have a lasting impact. It just goes to show how early our developmental journey really truly begins. Once we enter the world, man, the pace of change is just incredible, especially physically. Early childhood is this whirlwind of mastering your own body and exploring the world through constant, nonstop, energetic motion. This is when we see the development of gross motor skills. We're talking about the big movements that give us freedom. Just think about what an amazing achievement it is for a little kid to learn to run, or to balance, or to pump their legs and swing all by themselves for the very first time. And at the same time, kids are mastering their fine motor skills, all the small, precise movements. Learning to hold a pencil, use a pair of scissors, or zip up a coat. These aren't just little tasks. They are the keys that unlock independence and creativity. So the journey through primary school shows this really fascinating shift. We start off just soaking up information, totally enthusiastic about learning. But pretty soon, our social world, our friends, start to become way more important. And by the preteen years, we start seeing complex thought emerge and this powerful driving need to belong. From there, we enter one of the most talked about periods of life for sure. Let's look at the chapter of finding yourself, adolescence. Adolescence gets this stereotype, right? A time of storm and stress. But under the surface, it's a period of really intense and, often confusing work. It's the critical job of figuring out who you are and where you fit in the world. So, how can adults actually be helpful guides during this time? It really comes down to a balance of support and structure. Encouraging them to join groups helps build social skills. Praising their effort instead of just their talent helps build resilience. Basically, a structured, supportive environment gives teenagers the safety net they need to go out and explore their identity. After that quest of finding ourselves, we move into what is, for most of us, the longest chapter of all: building a life in adulthood. Adulthood brings a whole new set of tasks, and our focus shifts outward. We start building intimate relationships, we establish careers, and we create stable homes.
For a lot of people, this also includes the huge responsibility of starting a family and raising the next generation.
The psychologist Erik Erikson saw adulthood as a series of crucial challenges. In young adulthood, the main conflict is intimacy versus isolation, that drive to form deep connections or risk feeling all alone. Then, in middle adulthood, the focus shifts to generativity, this deep need to contribute something that will outlast you, versus stagnation, which is that feeling of being stuck. How we deal with these stages really shapes our sense of purpose in life. And that brings us to the final chapters of our story, where the journey really does come full circle. Let's talk about later life and the incredible power of connection. Through all these chapters, through all the ups and downs, there's one need that is always there: connection. This fundamental human drive to belong, it doesn't just fade away with age. It's the thread that runs through our entire lifespan, and it's just as vital in our later years as it was in our first. Now, this stage of life also brings its own unique set of challenges. Navigating health issues, loss, and the loneliness that can sometimes come with an empty nest, that requires a whole different kind of strength and support. Understanding these hurdles is so important for making sure later life is fulfilling and dignified. When you look at this whole journey, you see that every single stage has its own purpose, its own challenges, and its own beauty. It's a reminder that our story is always being written and we are the authors. So just take a second to think about it. What chapter are you writing right now?